There are certain images in TV history that just act like flash bulbs. They get burned into your retinas, and you just can't unsee them. And for me, one of the most haunting visceral moments has to be from that final stretch of The Sopranos.
I think I know exactly where you're going with this.
I'm talking about the flipped SUV, the shattered glass, the branch sticking through the baby seat in the back, and then that heavy breathing and the hand on the nose.
It is brutal. It's the end of Christopher Moltisanti. And honestly, it's arguably one of the darkest moments in a show that was already, pitch black.
Oh, absolutely. And for years, the consensus, among fans, critics, just people talking, has been pretty unified.
Yeah.
It usually goes something like, wow, that was cold, but honestly, it had to happen.
Right.
Christopher was a mess, a junkie, a liability. From a cold strategic standpoint, Tony Soprano was just taking out the trash, right?
That is the prevailing wisdom. It feels logical. Ruthless, yes, but logical. But today we are going to completely dismantle that idea.
We are. We're doing a deep dive into this really compelling essay called Tony Should Have Killed Paulie. And that's the tragedy. And the argument here is, well, it's wild. It basically says that by killing Christopher, Tony didn't just commit a murder. He committed a massive strategic blunder.
He killed the wrong guy.
He killed the wrong guy. And that if he were truly thinking about the long-term survival of the Jersey crew, the person who should have never made it off that boat in Miami
Was Paulie Gualtieri.
Which sounds crazy at first. Paulie is the survivor. He's Walnuts. He's the comic relief, the old guard. But the more you dig into this source material, the more you realize, wait a minute, Paulie was actually the dangerous one.
Exactly. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We aren't just recapping a TV show here. We're looking at this as a case study in leadership and different kinds of loyalty and specifically the fatal error of choosing comfort over strategy.
So let's get into it. Because to understand why killing Christopher was a mistake, we first have to admit that the case against him looks pretty slam dunk on paper. If you're a CEO or a mob boss and you look at Christopher's resume at that moment, it's a disaster.
It is. You can't ignore the facts. He's relapsing. He's totally unreliable.
Right. Let's set the scene again. He's driving the Escalade.
Yes.
He's high on cocaine. He flips the car off the road because he's distracted and impaired. He's choking on his own blood. And what's the first thing he says to Tony? Help me, but I won't pass a drug test.
And in Tony's world, in that specific ecosystem where loose lips sink ships, instability is usually a death sentence. And Christopher was, he was the definition of instability.
Exactly. He's a walking Ryko case waiting to happen. So Tony sees the branch going through the car seat where his baby could have been and realizes Chris will never get clean. And he makes a snap decision.
He says, I'm ending this misery. It feels like he's protecting the family from a loose cannon.
It does. And that's the surface level logic. It's very seductive logic. It makes Tony feel like he's being a strong leader, making the hard choice for the greater good.
But the essay argues that this is where we get tricked. And where Tony gets tricked, we have to make a very careful distinction here between being messy and being disloyal.
Okay, let's unpack that distinction. Because Christopher was definitely messy. He was shooting bakery clerks in the foot.
He was incredibly messy. Addicted, emotional, volatile. But look at his actual track record when it comes to family secrets. The source points out a really crucial nuance. Christopher's instability was internal.
Meaning he hurt himself.
He hurt himself and he hurt the people immediately around him emotionally. He self-destructed. But ask yourself this and really think about the whole series. Did Christopher ever leak information to New York?
No, I don't think he ever did.
Did he ever seriously entertain switching sides to Johnny Sack or Phil Leotardo when things got tough?
Not really. He complained a lot. He felt unappreciated. He wrote that screenplay, Cleaver, which was basically just a revenge fantasy against Tony.
But that was fiction. He never actually picked up the phone and sold Tony out. The source calls this out perfectly. Christopher depended on Tony. He craved that father figure validation.
And that dependency, as toxic as it was,
made him controllable. He wasn't a political threat. He was an emotional burden.
That's a huge difference. He might crash a car, but he's not going to, wiretap the Bing.
Right. Christopher was the loyal son. A screw-up, yes. A total screw-up. But his loyalty was bone deep. He gave up Adriana for Tony.
Oh, man. Adriana. I forgot about that part.
He sacrificed the love of his life for the family. That is the ultimate proof of loyalty.
Grim, but it absolutely proves the point. Okay, now let's pivot. Let's talk about Paulie Gualtieri.
The insecure opportunist, as the essay calls him.
Which is just such a perfect label. So if Christopher is the addicted soldier, Paulie is the insecure soldier. And the source argues, and I think this is a brilliant insight for anyone in management, honestly, that the insecure soldier is infinitely more dangerous.
Because the insecure soldier talks.
Talk about that. Why does he talk?
Think about why Paulie leaks information. He doesn't spiral privately in his room with a needle. When Paulie feels underappreciated or when he feels like Tony isn't giving him enough respect, what does he do?
He looks for a new daddy.
Exactly. He goes running to Johnny Sack. I remember that storyline so vividly. He's feeling left out. Tony isn't visiting his mother enough, so he starts feeding New York all the dirt.
Specifically, he tells them about the joke Ralphie made about Ginny Sack.
The 90-pound mole joke.
Right, exactly. Now, let's just pause on that for a second. It seems like such a trivial thing, a fat joke about a rival boss's wife,
Yeah.
but Paulie weaponized it.
And it nearly started a war. It nearly got people killed.
Mhm.
It cost Tony hundreds of thousands of dollars to smooth over. It destabilized the entire Jersey-New York relationship. And why did Paulie do it? Was it some strategic coup to take over?
No, it was because his feelings were hurt. He wanted Johnny Sack to tell him he was important.
That is terrifying when you think about it. You can lock an addict in rehab, you can monitor them, but a guy who will burn the whole house down just because his ego is bruised, that's a silent killer.
Almost like a corporate setting. You have the guy who is always late and maybe a bit sloppy. That's Christopher, but he believes in the company.
He believes in the mission.
And then you have the guy who always hits his targets, but is secretly forwarding emails to a competitor because he didn't get invited to the golf retreat. That's Paulie.
That is a perfect analogy. Christopher might crash the car, but Paulie will tell the feds where the car is parked if he thinks it'll get him a pat on the head.
So we have this setup. Christopher, high maintenance but loyal to the bone. Paulie, low maintenance day to day. He does his job. He keeps his plastic clean.
But his loyalty is paper thin. And the source gives us this incredible comparison using two key scenes to prove it. The first one is when Tony gets shot and is in the hospital.
The Carmela contrast. Yeah, this is such a telling moment for leadership analysis.
It really is. So Tony's in a coma, the boss is down, there's chaos. And how does Paulie react?
Paulie is immediately worried about his wallet.
Yeah.
He starts complaining about kicking up money to Carmela. Why should I pay the Princess of Little Italy?
He's grumbling, he resents giving her her share.
It's so cold. The man is fighting for his life, and Paulie is counting pennies.
It exposes that his loyalty is structural. It only holds up as long as the power structure is intact. The second, Tony's power wavers, Paulie's obligation waivers. It's just a transaction. I pay you because you're the boss. If you're not the boss, I'm keeping the cash.
Right. Now, compare that to Christopher in the same situation.
Christopher was a wreck. He was relapsing, angry, confused, but where was he?
He was at the hospital.
He was emotionally present. He held Carmela's hand. He was yelling at the doctors. He wasn't calculating. He was grieving. That is personal loyalty, the kind that doesn't vanish when the boss is weak.
And Tony just never really appreciated that difference, did he?
No. He took the personal loyalty for granted because it came with so much emotional baggage. He preferred the transactional kind because it was cleaner, it was easier.
Which brings us to the second pivotal scene, and this one. Man, this one is tense. The boat ride in Miami.
The will he or won't he moment. Yeah.
This is later in the series. Tony takes Paulie to Miami to lay low. They're on a boat. It's just the two of them. And you can just feel Tony staring at the back of Paulie's head.
It's suffocating. You can feel the tension. The boat is rocking.
And the essay makes a really strong point here. This wasn't Tony being paranoid. Sometimes we think, oh, Tony is losing his mind. But in this moment, Tony was being completely aware.
Yes. He isn't hallucinating. He starts questioning Paulie. He brings up the Ginny Sack joke again. He's testing him. He knows deep down that Paulie was the leak. He knows Paulie nearly caused a war over his ego.
He is weighing the decision right there. Do I throw him overboard?
The Peller will chop him up. No one will ever know.
He practically has the gun in his hand.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do it. And this is the million-dollar question. Why? If Tony is this brilliant strategist and he knows Paulie is a leak, why does Paulie walk off that boat alive?
Because Paulie makes him laugh.
Is it really that simple?
It's a little more complex, but that's the root of it. Paulie is old school, he's predictable, and most importantly, he's manageable.
Manageable.
Paulie doesn't challenge Tony psychologically. He's superstitious, he's annoying, he tells the same jokes, but he doesn't force Tony to think about his own soul. He's a known quantity. He's comfortable furniture.
Whereas Christopher
is a mirror.
Ooh, okay. The mirror effect.
Yeah.
Let's get into the psychology of the kill here, because the source argues the reason Christopher had to die wasn't actually the drugs.
No. The drugs were the excuse. They were the justification Tony gave himself and us to make it feel like a strategic move. He's an addict. He's a risk. But the real reason, the deep psychological reason, is that Christopher just exhausted Tony.
Exhausted him how?
Because when Tony looked at Christopher, he saw his own flaws reflected back at him. Christopher struggled with impulse control. So did Tony. Christopher struggled with substance abuse. So did Tony, with food, with gambling. Christopher was weak in the exact ways Tony was weak.
That's fascinating. So Christopher is this constant walking reminder of Tony's own failures as a man and as a mentor.
Exactly. He's a mirror that Tony didn't want to look into anymore. It hurts to look at a mirror that shows you your own ugliness, but Paulie isn't a mirror. He's static. He's annoying, sure, but he doesn't make you question your own humanity.
There's this line in the essay that I highlighted, and I think it summarizes this perfectly. Tony didn't kill the biggest threat. He killed the most emotionally complicated one.
That's the entire crux of it. It was relief masquerading as strategy. Tony felt relief after killing Christopher. He even says it to Melfi, that he felt relieved, not because the family was safer, but because he didn't have to deal with the emotional weight anymore.
He mistook removing a headache for removing a danger?
And by keeping Paulie, he was choosing comfort. He was choosing the guy who laughs at his jokes and doesn't make him feel bad about himself.
Comfort over strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And that choice has massive thematic implications for the show. This is where the essay zooms out to the old world versus new world idea.
Right, let's talk about that, because The Sopranos is never just about mob guys. It's about America. It's about generations.
It is. And if you look at the characters as symbols, Paulie represents the past.
He is the past. I mean, think about it.
What does that mean?
Superstitions, plastic covers on the furniture, rigid codes. Paulie is the old neighborhood. He refuses to change. He doesn't grow. He has the same haircut for 30 years. He has no wife, no kids, just his TV and his coupon clipping.
He's stagnant.
He is old school mob culture, outdated and shrinking, but stable. Christopher, on the other hand, he represents the future.
Oh, so he was a mobster too.
He was, but remember his interests. He was the one trying to write a screenplay. He was interested in Hollywood. He had that modern existential anxiety. He went to AA meetings. He was trying to process his trauma, however clumsily.
He had ambition. He wanted to be something more than just a goon. He wanted an arc.
Exactly. He had identity conflict. He was trying to evolve. He was chaotic, yes, but he was adaptive. He represented the possibility that the mob could morph into something else, something modern.
So by killing Christopher,
Tony kills the evolution of the crew. He chooses the stagnant past over the difficult future. He ensures that the Jersey crew has nowhere to go. They can't grow. They can only rot.
wow, that really reframes the whole tragedy. It's not just Christopher died, it's the future died.
And look at the final episodes. The visual language confirms this perfectly.
The essay points this out. The final stretch. The war with New York happens. The crew is decimated. Bobby Bacala dead. Silvio Dante in a coma.
The family is gone. And who is the last man standing outside Satriale's pork store?
It's Paulie.
Sitting there alone? Maybe there's a stray cat nearby, tanning himself with a reflector?
The man who leaked information. The man who flirted with betrayal. The man Tony knew was a problem on that boat. He survives.
The politically disloyal made man survives because he's simple. And the personally loyal protege is dead because he was complicated.
It's the ultimate irony. Tony protected the past and eliminated the future. And in doing so, he guaranteed that the Jersey crew would just fade away. It's the tragedy of stagnation.
It's heavy when you put it that way. We always think of Tony Soprano as this Machiavellian genius, always 3 steps ahead. The Kevin Finnerty dreams, the Sun Tzu quotes. We want to believe he's playing 4D chess.
But he wasn't. Not at the end. He was just emotional.
He let his feelings dictate his strategy. He believed he was eliminating instability by suffocating Christopher. But really, he was just eliminating his own discomfort. If Tony were a pure strategist, a cold, calculating machine, Paulie was the smarter hit. Paulie was the security risk.
But Tony isn't a machine. He's a human being who didn't want to deal with the stress of a crying, addicted nephew anymore.
And that inability to handle the emotional weight, that preference for the manageable sycophant over the difficult loyalist, is what doomed him. It left him alone, with only ghosts for company.
This really makes you think about leadership in a broader sense.
Yeah.
Not just in the mafia, but in life. in business.
Oh, absolutely. It's a universal trap. We see this in companies all the time.
How often do we see a manager fire the difficult genius? The person who challenges ideas, who maybe isn't the most polite in meetings, but who actually cares about the product.
All the time. They fire the innovator because they're annoying or high maintenance, and they keep the person who just nods and says, yes, boss, and fills out their spreadsheets quietly.
The Paulies.
The yes men. They're safer, they make the manager feel smart. But then 5 years later, the company has stopped innovating, the culture is dead, and they go out of business. Because they killed all their Christophers.
That's the real lesson here. It makes me wonder, and I will pose this to you listening right now, how often do we mistake manageability for loyalty?
That's the question.
We all have people in our lives, in our workplaces, our social circles, who are easy. They agree with us, they don't challenge us, they're our Paulies, and it feels good to keep them around. It strokes the ego.
But are they the ones who actually have your back when the chips are down? Or are they just there because it's convenient, because the feed is good?
And conversely, are we pushing away the people who might be a little difficult, a little messy, who maybe challenge us or mirror our own flaws back to us, but who would walk through fire for us?
Are you sacrificing your growth just to stay comfortable?
That is the tragedy of choice. And honestly, looking back at The Sopranos through this lens, it makes the ending feel even more inevitable. It wasn't just about the guys in members-only jackets coming to get Tony. It was about Tony having already dismantled his own future.
He hollowed out his own kingdom from the inside.
A powerful note to end on. Thanks for diving deep with us today. It's definitely going to change how I rewatch that final season.
Same here. It makes you realize the villains aren't always the guys with the guns. Sometimes the villain is just your own desire to be comfortable.
Oof. Well said. We'll catch you on the next deep dive. Stay curious.